Hey, good morning and welcome to Breakthrough Walls. I'm Ken Walls and I'm your host. And today, ladies and gentlemen, I have an internationally known rock star by the name of Sloan Reid. Sloan is she's an amazing woman. I want to say thank you to Joe Ingram for referring her over to me to be on the show. She is amazing. So do me a favor and stop everything you're doing. Pay attention. Share this out to all your friends and stay with us. We will be right back and hear the exciting story of Sloan Reid. And we are back. Let me bring Sloan on. Sloan, welcome to the show.
Hey, how are you?
I am wonderful. It's so great to have you on.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. When Joe connected us, I was like, okay, this is my type of people. I like it.
I love that. Joe is a great guy, and he said he was going to be in the audience watching today, so we'll see. He'll harass us in some way,
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Well, I'll put my phone over there because I can't deal with that. No, I'm just kidding.
I know. Mine's on Do Not Disturb. I know I'm going to get text messages, random photos. So Sloan, I started this about 5 years ago, little over 5 years ago. And it was really, I was kind of stuck in life at the moment. And I thought, if I just listen to enough people tell their story about how they got unstuck, maybe it'll help me. And it did. And it's helped a lot of other people. So I'm really excited to hear your story. And let's start with you telling everybody where you were born and raised.
Oh, goodness. The West Texas town of El Paso, Texas. I was there for the first 17 years of my life and then made my way super far away, still in Texas. That's how it works. You can travel for days and still be in Texas.
Yes.
And went to school at Texas A&M and then shortly after made my way to Tennessee.
Wow. Okay. Tennessee from Texas. Why?
Big stretch, it's completely different. I just wanted to come night and day. No, it's not that big of a stretch. Ironically, it was either, I think I was in Texas and I didn't want to be the typical Texan that lives in Texas their whole life, which is very easy to do. Well, that state is incredible.
It's unbelievable.
I wanted to spread my wings at least a little bit. And so I think in that time when you're 22 years old, it's like LA or Nashville, and LA seemed a little intense for a young 22-year-old. So I decided, or at least for me, I know there's plenty that do it well, but I chose Nashville and fell in love. Literally, I met my husband like within 3 months of being there.
I love Nashville. Matter of fact, I don't know if you ever have, but I don't even know how many times, gone to the Opryland Hotel.
I lived in Nashville for several years. Then me and my husband got married. He moved us to Kentucky for a stint, and then we moved to Chattanooga. So I've been close for a decade, over a decade now. Goodness gracious. Had plenty of opportunities. I just stayed there after my last trip to San Diego. I landed in Nashville and we decided to stay the weekend there and celebrate my husband's birthday. So literally less than a few weeks ago, I actually got to stay there. I was like, wow, this has been here the whole time?
Oh my God. That's crazy. That is like my favorite hotel in the world. And you can get lost in it easily.
Oh, I did quite a bit. Thank goodness for all the maps and all the signs. But actually, it was my husband's birthday. Yeah. And so I had my mom come down. And so she came down. So we all stayed there. And I sent my mom and my son to the water park. And my husband and I went to the spa. And then my husband ditched me at the spa, sent my mom to the spa with me, and went to the water park with our son. I was like, that's how you do it. That's how you welcome 44, right?
That's right. That's right. I'll tell you, and Nashville is just an incredible city. I love Nashville
Oh, I
all
loved
the
it
way
for,
around.
yeah, it's a
Yeah.
great, it's lots of life. It's growing fast.
Yeah.
Some would say too fast in some ways.
Yeah.
But it's an amazing little hub. The whole state is.
Yeah. Patricia Gigich is on here. Do you know Patricia?
Maybe it sounds
She's
familiar, but maybe.
internationally famous artist. Her art is actually hanging in the
Ooh,
Vatican and in the Louvre, and she's amazing. She's
that is amazing.
yeah. So Sloan, talk about, well, what did you study in college? You went to Texas A&M, which I think
Yeah.
everybody in Texas does. It's either that or Oklahoma for some reason. I don't get that.
Yeah. It's Texas A&M, and then there's that other school that really likes to wear burnt orange that shall not be named. No, there's so many great schools in Texas. It's just Texas
Yeah.
A&M just happens to be the best. It's not our fault. It just happens that way. But I studied political science. I know it's
Okay.
shocking based on what I do now, and with I was a minor in business, which
Okay.
makes a little bit more sense.
So what? And I don't know exactly everything you do now. I know that you are you currently or you were Mrs. Tennessee?
So I passed on the title in April
Wow.
officially, but I held it for 2 years. So that's why I always say I'm
Wow.
clearly a forever Mrs. Tennessee because I held onto the title so tightly and
That's
got to go to nationals twice, 2 years in a row. And what's crazy that you ask is that our girls, our current title holders, are in Vegas right now. The show is tonight for the Miss. And then the next 2 nights is for our Mrs. girls. And so Mrs. America is happening this weekend. So
oh
a little
my
nostalgia happening for sure. I'm definitely stalking Instagram and liking and being a fangirl for sure.
oh, that's so awesome. So talk about, what was it in I think that everybody goes through something or a person, some kind of influence in childhood that pushes us into what we become as adults. When I say that, is there anything or anyone that comes to mind that like kind of formed you, molded you into what you became as an adult?
I think, well, first, still molding. And I think that was a big part of me that set me free with that understanding and realizing that I don't have to be fully molded at any
Mhm.
point. I want to be continue moldable and a work in progress.
Yeah.
So because of that, I think there's been a lot. I think, of course, there's always the traumatic events. I lost my father at 9, and
Oh,
that was obviously, and so my adolescent response to that, like my little brother was 8, and we had very different responses. I went into the overachiever mindset, and so much so I ended up skipping a grade.
oh
and
wow.
yeah, and of course my brother went more of the adrenaline rush path of
Yeah.
just dealing with that kind of loss and trauma that no one should ever have to go through. And but with that, that kind of propelled me into starting high school at 13 years old, which had me graduate at barely 17, which had me move 10 hours away at 17 years old. I couldn't even like sign things. I couldn't go to half the places because I wasn't 18 yet. And so
Wow.
it was a lot of moments of having to grow up really, really fast. And so when you talk about that pressure of needing to like fit the mold of what, like being fully molded, fully fit, full in those moments and grown, I had a lot of that pressure.
Yeah.
And I continued to do that to me. And so I think that was pivotal. And then, of course, you mentioned pageantry. I think
Yeah.
one of the biggest break moment, right? We have to break in order to break through,
Yep.
right? And I've had a few
Yes.
breakthrough. Yes, I've had a lot of seasons of brokenness, and
Yeah.
some impactful ones in the last decade for sure that has launched me into what I do now. But I think the pivotal one that really started this journey was actually when I competed at Miss Texas USA, the biggest train wreck of my entire life.
Really?
It's Oh, I bombed. I bombed. It was horrific. I got in my head. I was seeking, I did it for all the wrong reasons. I wanted external validation from all the wrong people. I had all the wrong influences, being loud, the louder voices in my head than my own. And I made some really, really like scary choices. I was convinced I was too big. And so therefore, like, my dieting was very, very detrimental, which, like, I lost myself in the process of that. There was actually a judge that saved my life. And he came up to me after the pageant and he goes, I just want you to know, I saw you. I didn't even make top 15. Like, when we talk about train wreck, it was a train wreck. And he came up to me afterwards and he goes, I just want to know, like, want you to know that I saw you 3 months ago and we were all ready to take you to Miss USA. Like, we were ready. We didn't recognize you. We were looking for you and none of us recognized you.
Wow.
Get help. And it wasn't just like a physical help. It was just like, he could tell that, like, the light in my eyes was gone. It was the emotionally drained. I remember standing in an interview and I just remember, like, I love people and I love talking to people and I love connecting, and I just was flat. And I think he felt that. And I'm so thankful for him for being bold enough, because that was a very bold statement to say to me, hey, get your light back, get your spark back, get your glow back, and find you. And I was like, wow. And then it made me realize how much of that spark and glow is fabricated for other people, and where's the authentic me in all of that. And so that was really the launching pad for me fighting for my authentic confidence and getting to know my true self so I can start showing up that way.
That is absolutely amazing. And I totally can relate to that. When I was 34, I somebody told me to get help, but it was for alcoholism. And so now I'm 21 years sober, but you know, it's like God sends the right people at the right time to smack us right up against the side of the head.
Or to pull the rug out from under you. And I have had seasons of that too, where I joke I got Paduca'd. In about 5 years ago, I got Paduca'd, and I can share that story. But I always describe it as it being the worst and best thing that ever happened to me. It's exactly what I needed. So sometimes I feel like God also sends those breaking moments. So he's like, listen, we have to break this mold because you're meant for a bigger one. You've put yourself in this box and you're meant for so much more, but you're like hiding in this box. We've got to get you free from it. So I'm going to break the box. I'm sorry, but it's because I have a better and bigger one waiting for you.
I absolutely love that. So when you talk about when the moment that you graduated from college and you were, where is Texas A&M? I should know that. I live here.
College Station. It's perfectly located because it's about an hour and a half from Houston, about an hour and a half from Waco, 3 hours from Dallas, hour and a half from from Austin. It's like the perfect hub where you're somewhat free of distractions. I'm going to put that in quotations, but you're a drive away from a fun weekend in a bigger city. So it's kind of like a safe place to have those growing pains that college is kind of meant for, without getting in too much trouble, because you're a little protected. So I appreciated that bumper being only 17. So, so I'm in College Station. I graduated. I took a victory lap because I had the extra year to do it. The one perk of skipping a grade is you get to add a year in college. So I could get my business minor. I think it was really interesting for me because I went to school for political science. And as you can tell by how I threw myself into the achiever mode, I had the like whole life plan when I came out, right? I was born and I was like, okay, here's my agenda. And want to hear God laugh, tell him your plans. And so I'm in school, I'm studying political science, and I hate it. I hate it. I had one teacher that I absolutely loved, but I hated the class. Like I would come home from class and my roommate would be like, what's wrong with you? And I'm just like, I had the life sucked out of me today, because it was like policy making and it was just all these legislation or politics in the media. And I mean, you know, our world today, it can be draining when that is your full, and it can be very, very cloud your perspective on the world when that becomes your whole focus. And I felt that happening and that burden. And my intention was, my bigger plan was law school or to be a lobbyist. And I personally, and I always say the joke, but I really wanted my soul. I wanted to hold on to my soul. But I say that jokingly because I feel like there's fantastic lawyers out there and amazing lobbyists. I've already told the story about how I didn't know what I stood for. And so I fell for everything, and I couldn't imagine getting into that world. I wasn't ready for it. I needed to find myself. So thank goodness I took the victory lap. I got my business minor, and I was working at a couple places locally. And that's when the big urge happened. I said, okay, like, you've changed plans, you pivoted. This is the first time in your life where you don't know. And it's terrifying, but it's so exciting. What are you going to do? Like, you have no attachment, no ties. Where are you going to go? And it was almost like I threw one of those, everyone dreams of like throwing a dart at a map and where are you going to go? And I had literally seen probably 5 articles for Nashville. And I said, all right. I knew nobody, had no job, nothing. And I'm not a singer. Everyone always asks me, they're like, are you a singer? No, completely tone deaf. I won't do that to y'all. But it literally is like, I was just like, we're going to figure it out. And I went.
Well, hold. So did you go to visit it first, or you just packed up and moved to Nashville?
I packed up and moved to Nashville. And it's actually an even crazier story. It gets crazier. So I make this decision. I'm going to move. And now I have to like make it happen.
And you're 22?
Yes. No job, no nothing. And so I'm like, I can do this. So I remember I was on the phone with my best friend. I'm like, how am I going to tell my mother? Like, that's the scary, like, moving to Nashville is no big deal. How am I going to tell her? Like, that's terrifying. Wow. Yeah. And so I remember like literally rehearsing the phone call with my best friend. And like, she was such an excellent version of my mother. She's like, you're doing what? You're leaving me. It was excellent. She deserves an Emmy for it. And so I finally get like the courage and I call her. And my mom's a phenomenal woman. It's just we were very close. And here I am making the phone call and moving across the country. And she calls me and I go, hey, Mom, I have something really heavy to tell you. And she goes, me too. And I go, okay, do you want to go first? And she goes, no, you go first. And I go, okay, listen, like, I'm in this pivotal point in my life. Like, I really, really think this is the perfect season for me. Like, I give this beautifully written speech. I had my notes, I'm sweating, glowing, right? And so I'm going through the motions. And I said, so at the end of it, I said, so I've decided I'm going to find a way and I'm going to move to Nashville. And she's silent. And it felt like an eternity. And then finally she goes, Sloan, her fiance at the time, her now husband, she goes, John just got a job offer in Brentwood. And I go, where's Brentwood? And because I had no idea. And she goes, south of Nashville. It's like a suburb of Nashville. Right. We're moving to Nashville. And I go, you're kidding me. And so they very graciously, like, they're like, well, we're moving across the country. We'll just throw your stuff in with ours. We'll take you with us. And that was the only reason it was possible. We lived together for a whole week and a half before my very, very, her amazing husband goes, hey, are you ready for me to be your guarantor on the apartment? And I said, yes, sir. And I moved into the tiniest little gypsy cave. Everyone else had to go up to their beautiful apartments. I went down to the basement one.
Wow.
And started the adventure of a lifetime.
Wow. That is so amazing. And again, everything just kind of was... Wow.
And it wasn't easy. I think that sounds so romantic, right? Oh my gosh. And it all worked together. And my mom and John magically got this job offer. And like, that was February. I turned 23 in April and I was 23 years old in a basement apartment with no furniture. My mattress was on the floor. I'm staring up at a very blank room crying because I'm the girl with the plan. I'm the achiever. I'm the girl that takes every opportunity. I have modeled throughout college. I had job offers that I turned down in college because I wanted something different. And I had really wanted to put the pieces back together in a real way, in an authentic way. And I had to have a fresh start to do it. And here I am thinking I've made the biggest mistake in my life. And I just know, like, the angels around me were like, oh, you just wait, hon. You just wait. But I remember, like, I think it's fun to tell the story now, but it was very hard. And it was a lot of questioning and self-doubt and insecurities that creeped in that I had to push through.
So talk about, because I mean, gosh, I think we've all been there, right? Mm-hmm. Where you're like, am I doing the right thing? Am I capable of this? Am I worthy of this? Mm-hmm. I mean, for me, the worthy thing was always like so huge, right? Mm-hmm. So, and you said something, I watched something, I believe you said at Greg Reed's deal. You said something about, um, it's a little video clip on your Instagram page. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was something about that self-worth, like
Yeah.
feeling worthy. And for
Mhm.
those of you that don't follow Sloan on Instagram, go follow her. She's amazing. But what in your experience, because now you have the glow movement, you have a lot of
Mhm.
really cool things happening. Um, what how how often do you think most people go through those feelings of complete and utter insecurity about everything they're doing in life? Here you are, you skipped a grade in high. I have a 13-year-old daughter and an
Mhm.
almost 18-year-old daughter, and I can't imagine one of them skipping a grade right now.
Mhm.
You know, but uh, how often do you think people are going through? I mean, you by outside looking in, it looks like you've got the world by the rear
Uh,
end, like how often do you think other people are going through that?
well, I want to be careful speaking for other people. I know for me, I go through it every day.
Yeah.
I am challenging insecurities and intrusive thoughts every single day. And
Mm,
I think it's important to realize that that's part of the course. And when you're
right,
able to honor that for what it is, and
right.
it shines a beautiful light, because I talked about this on the latest episode of my podcast, where there's your reaction and there's your response. And your reaction can jump in the driver's seat and it can totally derail your response. If you're feeling angry, you're going to react, you're going to respond angry. If you're feeling insecure, you're going to respond from an insecure place. But if you can separate the two and you can honor the reaction, it's human to have those emotions. It's human to feel insecure. It's human to feel like an imposter. It's human to feel nervous or have shame or feel frustrated or have fear. Those are all normal reactions and they can be very telling. And if we honor them for what they are, as
Yeah,
not something to shame ourselves with, but we honor them from a place of what is my subconscious? What is my inner me trying to communicate to me right now? What is it shining a light on that I have an opportunity to grow through? And when you take it from a place of curiosity, you're able to honor that and say, okay, thank you for that insight and holding up the mirror that I maybe not wanted to see. But now I get to take my power back and respond in a way that's authentic to me. So yes, I'm feeling insecure today, but what's more, how do I want to respond? What's the version of me that deserves to show up today free of this? And yes, honor those insecurities and say, okay, how do I love myself through this? And it gets easier, because insecure Sloan 10 years ago didn't respond as well as Sloan today does to those insecurities. But I know that 10 years from me now is going to look at me now and going, you were doing a really good try. Nice try. I'm doing better. And hopefully it continues to evolve and continue to grow from a place of learning to not only know and like yourself, but mainly trust yourself that you may not have it all figured out and you're not meant to. It's part of the human experience. It's okay to fail, but to have grace and gratitude for the process.
that's amazing. So okay, so on because I was gonna go, okay, so tell me how you feel about global peace
World peace.
or world peace, world
Well,
peace.
let me
um,
tell you, I
yeah.
have all the answers. Let me get my binder. No, I'm just kidding.
Right, you're like, I wrote this out. But uh, I think from and I love the authenticity that you're talking about. That's I teach that in podcasting and live stream. Like, just be you. Like,
Mhm.
everyone else is already taken. Be you, and you'll people will either like you or they won't, and just accept that.
And
Um,
I think a big part of authenticity, because the be you part of it is, I think so many people want to do that. They want to be you, they want to be themselves, but they
yeah,
don't take the time to find out who that really is.
thank you.
And that's
Amen.
the piece, because everyone's like, oh, be you. And they're looking at you like, but who is that? I don't know who that is. And I think it's so crucial that that's a priority for all of us. And we continue to learn who we are every
Yeah.
single day.
It's like Dr. Wayne Dyer used to say. He would bring up the scripture, love thy neighbor as thyself, which presupposes that you love yourself. Like most of the, I'm not judging, but a lot of people probably shouldn't love their neighbor as they love themselves.
Oh, same. I always say, like, I actually flip that. I'm like, I need to start talking to myself how I talk to my best friend.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you right now, if someone talked to my best friend the way I talk to me, whoo, that girl would be, I'd be coming for her. And so
Right?
Why is it okay that I allow myself to talk to me that way? Because if anyone talked to someone I love that way, they would get a side of me that nobody gets to see very often.
Right. So talk about day-to-day life, when you, I'll give you an example. The other day, my wife is out of town with her family for some personal reasons, but I'm playing Mr. Mom. I'm running our businesses. I'm juggling dogs and cats, and I go to get the dog's water, and the cat threw up right next to the dog's water bowl, and my daughter stepped in it, and I'm like, I'm gonna lose my crap here in a minute. And I'm like, what is wrong with the cat? Why would it throw up? And I get that, just like, what is wrong with this world and the cat and this really has nothing to do with it. It's my reaction, right?
Yes.
So when you're having, I don't know if you have moments like that, but moments where you're like, I'm gonna lose my crap right now. Like, how do you stop yourself and go, okay, hold on a minute. This is I'm not really angry with the cat. It's just the situation and whatever. How do you stop yourself from letting that escalate inside?
Prep, work before, is it's a lot easier to set yourself up for success than try to recover from a failure. And so, so for me, and I know it happens when I'm not doing my prep, when I'm not diligent in investing in my inner peace and my wholeness, those moments happen more often, right? So when I'm intentional with I think we all are trained to, like, oh, your physical health, go for a walk and all, and we're not encouraged. And I think we are having a shift, and I'm loving it. I'm definitely, we're seeing more advocacy for therapy and more advocacy for mental health and mental wellness and emotional intelligence. I do see this wave push, which is so powerful because it's so essential, because we can be in the best physical health of our life, but if we're emotionally and mentally distraught, it doesn't matter. It's that stress is going to have a negative impact on us physically. Yep. And so I think it's the whole package of that investment of overall wellness. And so for me, I'm a words girl, as you can't tell. I love talking, but words of affirmation is my love language. And so I have to be really, really careful of how I'm speaking. I'm very, very intelligent in not only what I speak over myself, morning affirmations, night affirmations, pep talks throughout the day are definitely part of my MO. So I become the loudest voice. I think I spent a big portion of my life allowing other people to be the loudest voice in my head. And it's part of me taking my power back of saying, I'm going to be the loudest voice in my life. And then a big part of my practice is gratitude. I start my day with gratitude. I end my day with gratitude. I intentionally try to be thankful for something throughout the day. Even when I said the Paducah thing, like, I am so thankful for that. But I lost myself during that season. And it was so vital for me to find these mental toughness and this mental health in order to get through that.
Somebody just asked a question. Can you read that?
Oh, hey, no, I think you have me confused with someone else.
Joe's watching us over on YouTube. So Joe, thank you again. We thanked you up front, but you were tardy to the party. But thank you for referring Sloan to me. She's amazing. So talk about
oh no. I don't know. I haven't seen it yet. I'm nervous.
Should I put it? I don't even know if I should put it on screen.
Oh no. Joe.
Such an ass. So we're gonna get to that. So I want to talk about, so you're 22, 23 years old. You moved to Nashville,
Mhm.
and you had no job. You knew nobody. You have a month and a half in or whatever, you move into your own apartment in a basement and no furniture, and life was beautiful.
Just rainbows and sunshine every day.
Right. But so you, hey, Joe, go over to Facebook and share this out, by the way. Joe, thanks, dude. But uh, talk about where things went from there, because that I've been there. I can relate to that. So how did you pull yourself out of that basement apartment into something better?
Well, again, I did what I know best, and that's put your head down, achieve, and just go hit the ground running. I always say that there's like several action styles. There's the type that's the planner and who's going to make sure that they know all 100 steps before they ever take step one.
Yeah.
And then there's the people that are afraid to take any action. They're hesitant. They don't like the plan. They don't like the action. They're just like, well, everything's good the way it is. And then there's me, and it's like, oh, we're supposed to get to the bottom of the cliff. Watch me jump, right? And everyone else is like, she did know that there were stairs, right? She didn't have to do it.
Right.
And so that was kind of it. Is I was just like, I was going. I was just like, it's survival mode. You do things in survival mode that you're like, I'm going to put my head down and go. And so I was a project coordinator, where I was like a freelance project coordinator, where I was taking on a few deals throughout, where I would work projects for different people. And then I did that. And then I got hired on as like a W-2 for a project coordinator for a business management firm that worked with a lot of, I say local celebrities, small local celebrities like Britney Spears and other Titans football players, just a small little company.
Wow.
And did that for a hot minute. And then I started as a recruiter, and I was recruiting talent and as well as helping business owners, staff, and work on that relationship of finding people's strengths and really pairing them with the environment that would help them thrive. And I loved it. And I loved my clients so much that I was actually called into a meeting and with one of my favorites, and we went for coffee and we were talking about this new position they were filling. And I had all these resumes in my purse, and she goes, so I pull out the resumes and she goes, Sloan, we're interested in you. Like, it was so obvious to her and so like oblivious to me. And I was like, oh, I don't have that resume. And I like put the resumes back. And so I got to step into concierge banking, which I loved,
Wow.
I actually told this story recently about how much I've grown. I remember being so head down, which all sounds great, right? The overachiever sounds amazing. And we all want to be that until we are. And how we lose a little bit of ourselves in that as well, and lose the experience of enjoying the process because we're so focused on the outcome. And that was very, very much me. What's next? What's the next goal? What's the next finish line? What's next? And I remember I was working for a bank as a concierge banker, and there was two types. There was concierge banker 1 and concierge banker 2. And it was like, no one has ever been promoted between these two roles in less than 18 months. And I said, challenge accepted. Like, wow. you just gave a new goal, an impossible goal, to an overachiever who has made it her whole MO of survival to achieve. So let's go. And so I remember working myself to death to make it happen with a lot of support. But in my naiveness of being in my early 20s, of course, I didn't see that. I didn't see all the other pieces that had to come into play to make that happen. And so I remember my boss was giving me the promotion that she had to advocate for me for. Like this had never been done. Their policy was you're in that seat, that's concierge banker role for 18 months. And here I am 9 months in.
What is the role again?
Concierge banker. So it's kind of like a blend of account manager. So I had my book of business of my clients that I took care of. I opened new accounts. So I was constantly growing business, but no pressure of like a sales element though. It was purely concierge banking. I also did transactions. I did small HELOC loans, credit cards, all of those things, partnered with our more specialty lenders. And it was basically like you walked in the bank, you didn't stand in line. I was your teller too. So I'd meet you at the door and say, hey, you have a transaction. I got that for you. Oh, you want to open up another business account? Oh, great. Oh, you want this loan? Let me introduce you. And so I was a point of contact for my clientele.
Got it. So it was important people like Joe Ingram.
Very, very. He'd be top of my list for sure. Actually, like he would be a dream client in that scenario because I fell in love with my clients like that. They were fun, they're vibrant. And when you're handling people's money, there's a level of trust there that has to be formed. Yeah. And I loved it. I loved what I did. And so while I say I worked really hard, I actually really loved what I did. And it was amazing. And so here I am 9 months and getting that promotion that they said would be impossible. And
Wow.
I'm in the meeting with my boss, this amazing woman who had so much patience for me and so much grace, who literally saw me and advocated for me to get the CB2 opportunity. And I was like, okay, thanks. What's our strategy? Because the next level was senior concierge banker. And I said, great. So I was like, thanks, great. So what's our strategy for senior banker?
Wow.
And her face, like her face will still haunt me, because there was no gratitude for me, because there was no gratitude for self. It wasn't a lack of gratitude for her and the effort she put in. I was trying to fill a void by doing. I had a hole in me. I had a lack of self-worth and self-love that I was trying to fulfill with achievements.
Yeah.
And so therefore I got this achievement and I still felt empty in the moment. So here I am getting what I fought so hard for, and I'm still feeling empty. So default setting me goes, oh, this is intense. I'm going to switch this off and just put a new goal in place, because I don't want to slow down and realize that these goals aren't filling the void in me. So I remember she ushered me out of her office in a very classy way. The meeting ended abruptly, but I don't remember feeling like she wasn't rude or anything like that. She just very classily got me out of there. And I remember having that realization after I left. So I don't remember exactly when that happened in my career, but I was there in total almost 2 years. So we'll say, so I was still there in CB2 for a while. And then my husband proposed. He was living in Kentucky. And so he proposed, and he was living there before we got married, and he asked me to come with him. And I said, honey, we're missing some hardware. So I need a ring on my finger. And so a few months later he proposed, and we got married 6 months after that. And then I'm in, and I actually, that's ironic too, I was actually up for a promotion. I had at that position right before I left, and I didn't get it. And again, and I think it was a really big blessing in disguise as well. But I also think there was an underlying piece of that puzzle of like, she's not going to appreciate it. Or, I feel like I was making assumptions there, and I tried really hard not to do that. But I feel, yes, it was a blessing in disguise, because I would have had to leave that promotion in a few months anyway. But yeah, there's some pieces there that I honor. If there was some ulterior motive of not giving me that, I totally can honor why. And so I get moved to Bowling Green, start my health and wellness coaching business. So that's where the coaching really came into play. So there's always been an element of coaching. There's been a theme of that, of pouring into people, seeing people's strengths, loving them through that throughout my life. But I just owned it at that point. That was the first time I was like, you know what? I love this development piece. I'm going to own it. And so I started with health and wellness, and I was a certified nutritionist and fitness instructor. And so I was creating meal plans and workout plans. And I actually had a client, and she changed my life. And she said to me, she goes, Sloan, you get people results, and your clients love you. Like, they absolutely love you. And you're really, really great at the meal plans and the things. She goes, but you light up when we get to the heart side, because I really focused on, okay, it's great that I'm getting you results, but why did we get into this position in the first place? Why did we not take care of ourselves? Why were we not making our health a priority? What root cause of that behavior? Like, let's heal that first. So why we're getting great results in the behavior is because when we find the wound behind it and we heal that, the behavior will either be quickly changed or fix itself. And she goes, you light up when we get to this part of it. When we get to the heart part of it, the mind part of it, you light up. And she goes, and that's why your clients love you. And I was like, oh, but I agree. This is my favorite part of my job, but people have to trust me with their body before they'll ever trust me with their mind and heart. And she goes, why? And that was a limiting belief I was working through. And so I trusted her. I put that in quotations, because I started the Glow movement that January. And I didn't close the health and wellness business until November of that year, because I was holding on. And it was ironic. I was actually sharing this with someone this morning. It was in October that I realized, wow, all of my clients in my health and wellness business should be under my Glow movement business. I was like, they're only coming to me for mindset coaching and self-awareness coaching and personal development coaching. And I just haven't been bold enough to move them over and claim it.
So you, and this all started in Kentucky.
Bowling Green, 2018.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And then it
So
sounds wonderful, right? Though, like all of that. Look, I got my dream
yeah,
career. I'm empowered, and I was rocking it. I loved Bowling Green. I was actually Mrs. Kentucky there. Yes, I know. I was Mrs.
wow.
Kentucky. I went on to Mrs. United States, got top 6. I mean, I was a health and fitness coach, so I got best pageant body of 2018.
Oh
Like
my
we
God.
are I'm rocking the achievements, right? That validation, that hole I'm trying to fill. I am
Yeah.
checking those boxes. My business is thriving. I'm Mrs. Kentucky, best pageant body of 2018. I started a candle line just for fun. That was thriving. I was everybody, every part of me is like all of that external validation that I crave. Oh, I'm getting fed. And then my am I back?
Oh, are you
Am I
there?
back?
Yep, there you are. There you are. I think your
I'm
internet
back. Can you hear
may.
me?
Yep. Yes, yes.
Okay, where'd you lose me? I think I
You
glitched.
said
It
I
happens.
started
It happens in real
a
life too. I'm
candle
sorry.
line. Something about a can. You
Oh,
started
yeah, just for fun
candle.
because
Uh,
a candle line. Yeah, just for fun
okay.
because Glow, it was on
Yeah,
brand. And then
that's
I was doing
awesome.
that. I was president of this organization, president of that organization. All of my external validation boxes were getting checked. So I'm on a high, right? I'm on
Yeah.
top of the world. I'm getting hit. Well, then my husband comes and says, "Hey, I'm getting a promotion and we're moving." And as a family decision, we decided to move to Paducah, Kentucky. And all
Paducah,
those things
Paducah.
that I
Where
tied my
is
value
Paducah?
in. Yeah,
Where's Paducah?
exactly. It is
I've been there. I
West Kentucky.
okay. Okay. That's right. I've been through Paducah. Can you hear
Yeah,
me
they're
okay?
most known. What they're most proud of is their annual quilt convention.
Oh my gosh.
Really quaint town, very, very cute. And I don't hold this against the town itself. Like Paducah was very cute and very sweet. Why it was so Paducah, why it's like a haunting word in my world is because I lost everything I tied my value in. I had to let go of all my titles. My year as Mrs. Kentucky was coming to an end. Everything that I tied my worth in, gone. And
Wow.
I got to be mom and wife, and that's it. All my clients were there, and we weren't using Zoom as frequently as we are. This was 2008, end of 2018, 19, like right before 19. So Zoom wasn't as like used as it is today. And it was just like I lost it all. I didn't have it on, like it just everything. And so I completely had to find out who I was without everything I tied my value in externally. And it changed my life. And I got to find my true value, my true worth, what I stood for. I got to be a human being instead of a human doing. I got to stop tying my value in the emotional roller coaster of other people's opinions and perceptions and let go of my reputation, realizing it was no longer my responsibility and own who I was. And my life completely changed. I discovered the Enneagram, which is the self-awareness tool that I'm certified in. That is the foundation of a lot of my coaching today, of really helping people know who they are. And I moved to Chattanooga less than 10 months later and been holding on to that ever since.
Oh my gosh. So what when you got to Paducah though, what was the catalyst? What you said I found myself. You had to go through some ups and downs in there before you were like, wait a minute. I mean, was there a moment that kind of blew
there was
up
a there
for
there was
you?
a there was a lot of moments. I was very depressed. I was crying a lot. When I say I lost myself, and the only reason I got out of my bed is because I had an amazing child and a husband that loved me, and I needed to show up for.
Yeah.
And so but it got to the point where I realized I had to do a lot of detoxing personally. And so I decided to really, really make myself a priority, really, really invest in my health, physically, emotionally, spiritually, find myself in that process, find value in the process and not achieving something. Like I didn't do anything. I was making it a priority not to have goals for me to accomplish, but to have systems that were sustainable and that I could really grow in, opposed to tying the worth of the experience in what the outcome was. And that was really healing. So I had to detox a lot of things. I stopped drinking. That was a big part of it. And I really stopped making better choices from a diet perspective and a health perspective. I started this routine of advocating for my gratitude and for affirmations and speaking life over myself. I stopped complaining. That was a big thing that set me free. And I was just really, really intentional of having the standard of excellence for myself to break free of tying my worth and other things. And I would say I talk about the Enneagram, but it was a life-changing tool for me. I had studied it, been aware of it, and studied it surfacely since I was in my late teens, early 20s.
Right.
But it was that season that allowed me to really deep dive into it. And as my personality, so if you're unfamiliar, the Enneagram is broken up into 9 types. There's 3 triads that those 3 types are divided into. So 3, 3, and 3. And I'm in the heart triad, which everyone in that triad shares the same irritant. So our 2s, 3s, and 4s share the same irritant of shame. And and never feeling enough. So constantly trying to justify their worth. And our 2s, 3s, and 4s do that in 3 very different ways. But as a 3, I was justifying my worth by doing and achieving. And so when that was thrown in my face, you don't know what you don't know. I didn't know I was doing that. And so when I was thrown in my face of, I'm not doing this because I want to. I'm not achieving because I want to achieve. I'm achieving because I'm trying to manage my shame and justify my worth. And do I even care about any of these accomplishments? Like, do they have the meaning of me? So the meaning for me. And so it was that pivotal point where I really discovered, what is my purpose? What is my personal mission, that despite the vehicle that God puts me in, I can still serve it, whether I'm at the grocery store, whether I'm sitting on a Zoom call, whether I'm at my kids' school, whether I'm speaking on a stage. What is that purpose that I want to serve? And the vehicle or the title or the credential that comes with it isn't where I put the value, because I'm serving the mission. And that's where my value comes from. And I really set myself free from that. And that became my focus. And I'm still a work in progress. I still have moments of finding myself in achiever mindset. And I got to check this to-do list off. And I have to go. And I have this accomplished. And I still have lots of goals. That doesn't go away.
Right.
But I think I've released the pressure on the and stopped tying the value of the experience in the outcome, but rather how I grew through the process.
That is amazing. So you mentioned earlier, well, Joe mentioned earlier. I know he told me, we were talking last night, Joe and I, and he said, I said, was she kidnapped by an Uber driver? And he's like, dude, it's a theme in her life. He says, she's so sweet and kind that people love her so much they just don't want her to leave.
It's true.
So Pat, can you touch on that? What is he talking? I don't know anything about this.
Okay, I'll try to give you okay. This does happen a lot to me. Like, it does. It's at grocery stores. Like, my husband, like, you know, that like tracker app on the phone, like my husband, it is a requirement that I have that. I'm surprised that my family hasn't like embedded a tracker somewhere in my body permanently, because like I'll go to the store and it's like 2.5 hours later and my husband's like, are you okay? Like, did you fall down the soup aisle? Like, what's going on? And I'm like, no, the cashier was on her break and she was having a really hard time and she just needed someone to talk to. And that's how I end up in these situations, right? And again, we talked about serving the mission. I wasn't joking about the grocery store. It does happen to me a lot at the grocery store, or like random people in the aisle will just be like, hey, and like start talking to me. And my husband's like, why does this keep happening? Right. But I love it. I really do love it. But the Uber story is hilarious. So I'm in San Diego. I'm there for Greg Reid's Prosperity Camp. And I land on Monday, and it's a long day. Like, I left at 3 a.m. Like I had to be up at 3 a.m. to leave. Like it is just a long, long thing. And so a long day, they don't have my room ready when I'm at there. So I've been hanging out in the lobby. At that point, the lobby has turned into my office. I have my laptop set down. Different people are sitting down at the table talking to me, wanting to share their stories. So I've already had a very full day of impromptu coaching, if you will.
Right.
And non-official, not a therapist, therapy sessions, right?
Right.
So at one point, I'm just like, you know what? When all else fails, go to Target. So I decide, I'm like, you know what? I'll just run it to Target, grab some things. And so I'm leaving Target, and I have all my bags because it's Target. So I'm loaded down. Like I have all my bags.
Right.
And I get the alert, your Uber driver has arrived. And I'm like, great. So I step out the doors. And as soon as I step out the doors in San Diego, it says recalculating, your Uber driver is now 3 minutes away. And I'm like, oh. And I look up, and as I'm looking up, there are 2 huge guys coming at me from both directions. And I'm just like, oh goodness, what's about to happen? And they come up and they're like, hey, and they start pushing candy sales on me because they're raising money. I think at the first time they said it, they were raising money for their basketball tournament. That was it. So again, I laughed and I said, I don't have cash on me, but what's your Venmo? I'll Venmo you. And the guy's like, taken back. And I go, what's your Venmo? And so I pull up my phone, I Venmo him a few bucks, and he's like shocked. Well, I'm still waiting for my Uber driver, and they're still hustling. And it's getting a little bit more obvious that we're not raising money for a basketball tournament, which I knew. But at this point, we're raising money for uniforms. And then it was football at one point. And then we switched sports again. And the guy's looking at me, my buddy Ty, he's looking at me because I know his name because I now have his Venmo. And he's looking at me and he's like, what's this girl going to do? Because we've obviously changed up our hustle a few times. Is she going to call us out? Is she going to come at me? Is she going to cancel what's happening? Right. And I looked at him and I'm like, hon, I don't care what you do with the money. And he was shocked. And I go, you asked me for help and I helped you. What you do with the money is on you at that point. And he nods. But in that same moment across the parking lot, there's another guy, and he different energy coming at me this time. And it's hot. And I was preparing myself, what am I about to embark on? I could just tell something was off, and he was coming at me. And all of a sudden, both of my candy pushers are standing in front of me. And the guy realizes, beelines, sharp turn straight into Target. I've never seen someone cower down so quickly and beeline it.
Wow.
And I'm standing there looking at these amazing boys that have just stood in that moment. And I look at them processing. They both fist pump me at the time. So I give a fist pump. My Uber driver pulls up. They open my door. They put me in the Uber, close the door, and I'm off on my little way. Right. And so in that moment, I'm processing wow, what a God moment of honoring someone, seeing them, and then them getting to immediately take care of me back. It was just such a beautiful moment. And so I'm normally have a different pitch because I'm careful in different cities to not try to get kidnapped. I at least try. And so normally when I'm in an Uber driver, I kind of keep what I do a little bit surface and generic, right? Yeah. But because of that moment, I was taken back, and my driver's like, oh, so he's taking me to a hotel. So he obviously knows I'm either visiting. And so he's like, oh, what are you in town for? And I was like, oh, I'm a personal development coach and public speaker. Oh, he lights up. And he starts sharing his whole journey with me about all the different practices he's studying and how he's dedicated his life. And he starts telling me his whole story. And we're having a really deep conversation. And we're approaching my hotel, and I see it. And I'm like, okay, we'll start wrapping. And all of a sudden in that same moment, he goes, ma'am, I just got to keep talking to you. He scrolls up, cancels my Uber drive, cancels the ride, pulls over to the side of the road and to talk to me.
Oh my God.
He keeps me for over an hour. We're on the
side
of the road.
Oh my God. What?
On the side of the road. Yeah, talking. And I'm just this is my life. I think 10 years ago, I would have been what is happening? Now I'm just oh, we're going to have a therapy session. And he was very respectful. It's not he even turned towards me. He still was talking and very respectful. It's not anything to make me uncomfortable. He just needed to talk. He just needed to be seen. And he has the most incredible story of overcoming several heart attacks. And I want to be careful of this being a live stream and not knowing who's on, but there's been a lot of triggers, but he's survived several attempts on his life, and just really hard story, and he's lost everything, and he's fighting really, really hard to get it back. And so he just needed someone. And so we actually connected, and he just needed someone to see him and to hear him and say, you still have value and still have worth, and you're worth being sat on the side of the road and talking to and being listened to. And so he drops me off at my hotel, and again, the story that's funny is my phone's being blown up because my mom and my husband are just assumed I got kidnapped at that point. And I'm like, yes. So I'm telling them the story, but it is what it is. But I actually heard from him later on that day, and he just said to me, he goes, thank you. He goes, I was praying for God to send me a sign that this life was still worthy, and it was still worth living. Thank you for showing up. And I think it's those moments of, I tell the joke, like, I don't pray for patience because I don't want God to give me opportunities to practice being patient.
Yeah.
Well, I pray, like, when I talk about that purpose and that mission, like, I pray to be a beacon of light and love. Like, I want to shine a light on people. I want people to feel seen, and I want to love people through their strength, through their weaknesses, and shine a light on their strengths. And God gave me lots of opportunities to do that in that moment. And I was blessed over and over again because I was obedient to that. You can't pray for your purpose, and you can't pray to serve this greater mission, and then when God gives you opportunities, shy away from it. And that's where that authentic confidence comes in. It's having faith in your value and your worth and how you serve in your purpose and show up in your mission, opposed to the credentials along
the way. I'm kind of speechless. Like, I'm sitting here thinking, somebody, the secret's out. You're a beautiful woman. that here you are, you hold these amazing titles and all the accolades you've received, and you're sitting in what sounds like almost homeless, or hopeless, at least, Uber driver's car on the side of the road, and literally counseling or coaching him for free, and doing God's work. I think that's amazing.
Oh, thank you. It was, and he was living in that car. And I think it was that moment of realizing that I prayed. One of my prayers is, like, even when I come on this call, like when I come on any call, even when I get on Clubhouse, right? That fun audio app that we all got addicted to during the pandemic, and or speak on a grand stage like I got to in San Diego, or record my podcast alone in my studio. I just say a prayer, and I just ask, I'm like, God, please use me as a vessel. Like, don't let my ego distract the message. Don't let my insecurities, don't let my pride, like, where I'd be afraid or timid of sharing the vulnerable story that is mine. Like, I love sharing. If you would have asked me 5 years ago to come on this call and share my life story, I would have been panicked. I'm like, what are people going to think of me? Oh, it's live. It would have been a completely different response. But growing through that and loving myself through that, and realizing where my value is not in the performance of it. It's in the heart of it.
Yeah.
Has really allowed me to show up as that vessel that I pray to be.
So let me ask you this. I mean, and I'm sure there are many other tough, difficult things. I mean, I can just feel it in your energy. There's things that you've gone through, that I would imagine you thought, this is it. This is the one. But what do you think? I've been broke and homeless, sleeping in my car, and I've been wealthy, and wealthy is better by far.
It makes things easier for sure.
It does. But like, what do you think, in your opinion, and all the coaching you've done and the experiences you've had, what do you think holds people back in life from two things? Number one, having wealth, money, and number two, and I do think they're related, joy, happiness, freedom. I do think those are related, by the way. I think because it's very difficult to be joyful when you can't eat.
Yeah, agreed. And that's why when they say money can't buy happiness, they've never been hungry. Right.
That's right. Amen. And I love what Grant Cardone says when people say that. He's like, he looks at him and goes, "You're broke, aren't you?"
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so what do you think holds people back?
Fear. And it looks differently for everyone, what that fear is. But I think it's fear of rejection, fear of failure. There's a great book. I love it. It's called Solve for Happy, and it's called by Mo Gawdat, Gawdat. And so I could pronouncing that totally wrong, and I apologize. But he has a formula in it, and it says the key to happiness, our happiness is dependent on our perception of life minus our expectations. So you expect to get the promotion, you get the promotion, of course you're happy, right?
Yeah.
You expect to meet the love of your life, you meet the love of your life, of course you're happy, right?
Yeah.
Like it's our perception of life and our expectations. And so I've always really appreciated that formula because that's where our power comes from. We always say like, oh, happiness is a fleeting emotion and we got to stop chasing it. And I agree with that because we should be striving for what you said, joy, internal peace. Yeah. And so when we are able to invest in our perception of life, they always say, change your perception, change your life. And I really, really believe in that. Yeah. And then manage your expectations. And so for me, I can't control outcomes, but I have an expectation of how I'm going to show up every day. Yeah. I can't control if I win Mrs. America, but I can show up how I showed up every day in competition, how I met some amazing women, how I got to authentically share my heart with those judges. I get to control that. So I had a blast at Mrs. America. Like it was a dream come true experience for me, regardless of if I didn't walk home with a title. And I still say it's one of the best experiences of my life. Yeah. And so it's about honor. It's about changing where you put the power, like changing your expectations of giving yourself that power back of controlling the controllables and your standards and your core values. Your perception comes from grace and gratitude. If you can really, really have gratitude for every blessing, because even at the lowest of lowest, there's something to be grateful. The breath in your lungs, the shoes on your feet, the people in your life, the woman sitting in the backseat of your Uber, like there's right. Always something to be grateful for every single day. And I saw that in that Uber driver. For him to take the time and thank me was really, really special and blessed me. And then having grace for ourselves. I think we talked about that mold at the beginning of our call where we put so much pressure that we're meant to have it all figured out, right? We're always meant to have all the pieces together and figure it out. And then when we fall short, because then we shame ourselves or we're frustrated with ourselves or we have this fear and anxiety tied to it. When in reality, if we just had grace for the process, we would actually get to enjoy this crazy adventure we call life instead of losing the human experience by putting so much pressure on ourselves.
Amen. Everything starts with gratitude. Like
I just read Joe's comment. I'm very grateful for you, Joe. More than you realize, jokes aside, extremely grateful for you.
Me too. We love Joe. Mm-hmm. So Sloan, I can't believe we're over an hour, which is amazing. Which is fine. I don't care. I'm sure you have other things to do as well today, but what would be the pretend for a moment that you've got the microphone and all 8 billion people on planet Earth are listening to you and you have the opportunity to say one thing to them that will impact and change the trajectory of their existence on this planet. What would that one thing be that you would say to change the lives of everybody on planet Earth?
I would say love yourself like your life depends on it, because it does. I think the more you love yourself and the more you value yourself and the more you measure your self-worth, it increases your capacity for all things. The amount that you love yourself and value yourself increases your value to love other people. It increases your mindset for abundance because you feel worthy for abundance. It increases the quality of your relationships because you're showing up full of love that is overflowing in all of them. So if we prioritized loving ourselves, we could completely change our lives because we would show up in love in all areas.
That's awesome. Where can everybody follow you? What's your website address? I should have asked you that in the beginning, and of course I didn't.
No big deal. No. So you can find me personally if you want to hang out. I'm on Instagram at Sloan_Reid, and that's REID. And but if you want to connect through the Glow Movement, I have my weekly podcast that you can find all of my coaching services and different ways that I like to provide resources and support through glowmovement.com. That's glowmovmt.com.
mvmt.com.
Yeah, a little play on words for movement.
I love
That's it.
that.
You nailed it.
Love that.
I was trying to not have people have fingertip fatigue or finger craps typing out the Glow Movement. So I shortened it.
And you're easy to find on Instagram and everywhere. You're absolutely oh, Joe.
Oh no. I'm ready for it.
Well, he had a typo in his comment, so we can make fun of him for that. I'm kidding. You can find her at Target.
You can actually most days. Yeah, that's not a false statement, Joe.
Joe. Anyway, Sloan, you're amazing. I'm like, your story is absolutely incredible. Just a Texas girl from El Paso that's made it to some really, really cool places in life. And so everybody make sure you go over to Glow Movement. If you're listening, it's glowmvmt.com, and follow Sloan on social media, on Instagram and everywhere. So Sloan, thank you so much. You're amazing. Thank you.
Well, please, before we hang up, please allow me to show my gratitude for you. You are amazing. I appreciate your humility and your journey and your vulnerability, because that is the key to changing so many lives, is sharing the full story, not just the highlight reel. And I love that you are giving a platform for a lot of us to do that, because sometimes people only want the highlights, right? Hence Instagram, perfect example. Yes. And so I appreciate your heart and your mission and your purpose to sharing the whole story, because we all need to hear it. So thank you very, very much for what you do.
That's so nice. Thank you. Jeez. Okay, I don't want you to leave. So let's just say
another hour.
I'm the podcast Uber guy. You're like, I couldn't get off his show. He wouldn't shut up.
I love it. That's part of it, is I truly, sincerely, genuinely love every minute.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. You're amazing. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you being here. You're amazing.
Appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you.
And so stay with me. I'm going to end the live stream, but one more shout out to Joe Ingram. Joe, thank you so much, man. You're freaking awesome. Thank you for introducing Sloan and I. This has been amazing. So everybody have a great day. Thank you, Sloan.
Thank you.
Bye.